No way, I'm streaming? Wow. Alright, here we go. So, yeah, just doing a Tuesday stream tonight, and it'll probably be for about an hour, and then I think I'll do another stream on Thursday. Kind of settling into a schedule, even though I don't really have an official schedule. It's just kind of what works out. So, I got a few things I wanted to talk about today, actually, because I've gotten a few questions and decided, today would be a good day to tackle those questions. So, last stream I got a question about why I use uh, Bash as my editor or whatever. Oh, wait, hang on, I got a message. Okay, I'll send him a link later. Anyway, yeah, so question from last time was, why do you use Bash as your text editor? And obviously that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Bash is not a text editor, but I do tend to use Vim in Git Bash, and it's a little bit weird that I'm using Git Bash, I guess, because you don't really have to use Git Bash on Windows. I mean, you could just use CMD, and there really is no need for Git Bash. And I also have like WSL and everything, and I have Nix installed. So why do I use Git Bash and Vim? And that's mostly because I don't actually I don't well I guess you could say I'm kind of lazy, but it was here. I already had this installed from before. Like I just have Git Bash on this machine. I installed it like ages ago, before I ever knew I was gonna, like, before like WSL ever existed, before Nix, before like a whole bunch of different things. And I've just kind of decided it has Vim. I use Vim. I'm fine with Vim. Everything I usually use is kind of built into Vim, right? I mean, like, it's in Vim plus NetRW, but NetRW just comes with Vim, so it's like, if I want to edit and browse files, create new files, delete files, like, I can just do that from within my text editor using NetRW. If I want to, like, open up a terminal window from within my text editor, I can do that with Term. I can, if I want to have multiple files open side by side, I have splits. Like, that stuff is awesome. And, of course, everything's accessible through the keyboard, right? I don't have to use the mouse. I don't have to keep making my hands jump around. I mean, that's kind of generally why most people like Vim key bindings anyway. Like, I could get VS Code and install Vim key bindings, and I have done that in the past before. And like that generally works pretty well. Obviously, there are some nuances and some differences because it is a different text editor. But like, there's another really big reason why I tend to use Vim, and that is because a lot of the languages I like to play with are, they're kind of new or experimental and researchy. So you don't tend to you don't tend to get like great IDE support. There's no like LSP support generally to begin with. Like, that kind of stuff takes time. It takes effort. And yeah, Vim and Emacs are usually the first text editors that ever get any kind of like syntax highlighting support or any kind of plugin really. Like, if you look at Idris, in particular Idris 2, right? Idris 1 had like Atom support, and now like nobody uses the Atom text editor, but it also had Vim support. Idris 2 started with Vim support, now it has Emacs support, and it might have VS Code. I don't know, but like, generally speaking, you don't tend to get support for other text editors and IDEs until a lot later, and it can take like years, right? And good IDE support is pretty hard to come by. Like, it took years for IntelliJ Rust to be like actually decent, and that was only after, you know, the people at JetBrains decided, hey, we should, you know, actually try and put some effort into making this official Rust plugin for IntelliJ, right? Like it's not exactly something that happens overnight, and it only happens for those, you know, like top 20 languages or so that people actually care about. The super popular languages. Like if your language is not super popular, then you can't expect to have very good support. Big companies are not going to invest money into great IDE support or anything like that, and just generally, it's not going to be very. It's not going to be very good. So, yeah, major reason why I use Vim is because it's just better supported right off the bat for most new languages. Like Kind has, I think, Vim and Emacs syntax highlighting. Idris too has Vim and Emacs highlighting. You know, Rust, of course, has pretty good support for Vim as well. It's just like, if I want to install the fewest number of IDEs and text editors, yeah, it's just easier for me to use Vim. It's easier to use Vim. Of course, it's also a lot more lightweight than, say, IntelliJ. Like, IntelliJ likes to chew through memory very quickly, I've noticed. And I do miss some things, right? Like, refactoring is very easy in IntelliJ and other IDEs. And autocomplete is nice, but you can get that through other plugins, usually. If they are available, even. Obviously, I'm not using them, so, I mean, I can't really use that as an argument in favor of what I'm doing, but, you know, it's, you know, you don't really, I mean, I don't personally use a lot of the features of IDEs. At least not that often. I mean, sometimes the refactoring stuff is really nice, especially if you're working in like a really big project and you just want to rename a whole bunch of different things all at once. Like that is nice. That is helpful. And you know, the find and replace tools in Vim are a little bit more tricky to use. Maybe they don't quite do what you need. They maybe aren't as smart as the IDEs, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess there could be an argument in favor of me using VS Code instead, since that's a lot more lightweight. And, you know, that's potentially a maybe. If that ends up being supported sooner, right, in new languages, if that ends up being supported sooner than Vim and Emacs, then, you know, sure, maybe I would actually use VS Code. But as it stands, a lot of these new languages, or experimental and research languages, tend to support Emacs and Vim more, and especially favoring Emacs, it seems, because like Agda and all its crazy mathematical symbols and stuff. It's a lot friendlier to Emacs users than to other text editors. So yeah, I'm not actually opposed to learning Emacs at all for that reason. Right, there's a lot of proof assistance and stuff that, you know, work a lot better or better supported in Emacs, but yeah, it's just a matter of actually sitting down, taking the time and learning Emacs. And maybe I'll do that someday soon. I don't know. I'm not opposed to it. I'm not one of those people who's in like the firmly Vim camp and hates Emacs. But yeah, I just need some time to sit down, learn it, and yeah. For me, I feel like that would open up some more interesting avenues. Like I could start playing around with Agda a bit more and see where that goes. But anyway, that's my answer for why I'm using this. why I'm using Vim as my text editor in Git Bash. The Git Bash part is purely because it's there. I'm lazy. And I prefer Vim already, so it just kind of gives me the facilities that I already want or need. And yeah, and Vim for all the other reasons. Just I like to dabble in I guess more experimental stuff, and Vim is better supported. That's just how it is. next on my list we have, oh yeah, the functional spec. So before we dive into other things here, I did want to show off the functional spec in Google Docs again. I've updated it. I've updated the diagram a bit. I realize that this is a little bit more realistic. We have the Rocket API just talking to all these interfaces. This interface for the randomizer algorithm will have a dependency on the graph interface, so like like the algorithm itself will be the one saying, okay, do these swaps on these edges and stuff like that. So I figured that this was a better interface. At least I think it makes sense. We might also need another arrow from like here to graph as well, or like from here to graph, because we're going to be constructing that graph from the config, most likely. Common has a single arrow here, but really it should have arrows from like most of these other modules. I didn't go through all the trouble of actually drawing those all out, but you know, you can kind of imagine that's how it would look. Maybe I'll actually do it in full once I know exactly which modules will have to depend on common. But yeah, I've added a few other things. Like I've decided to try having the app live in a Docker container when we deploy it. Obvious reasons there being it's like automatic cleanup, right? If you take down the Docker container, then any files that were written that are still sitting there left over can easily be erased, that kind of thing. Docker is very good for these sort of ephemeral environments, and I feel like for an app like this, it's probably fine. We might even use Docker for GitHub Actions, which is what we're going to be using for our CI pipeline. That I'm not 100% decided on. I might use Nix since I have been dabbling with Nix a bit lately, but I don't know if I'm at a point where I'm ready to use it for something like this. And I have used Docker and CI before, and that generally seems to work pretty well. So, you know, don't mess with success too much. I don't think I've really edited too much else here. I've added some more dependencies. I don't know if I've talked about that last time, but anyhow, because error handling in an application, there's probably going to be some recoverable errors as well. So we might need this error, but I haven't added it just yet. And we also have rand because we're a randomizer. Makes sense, right? And yeah, that basically covers the changes to the spec. And again, I really want to emphasize that, you know, functional specs like this should pretty much always be live documents. Like don't just write up the initial draft and say, okay, I'm done. That's just how it is, right? I mean, requirements change over time, and it's good to constantly be updating the diagram and making sure that everything is in order. Keeps things organized, keeps you on track. Speaking of being on track, yeah, the sprints that I have here. So we're on our third sprint right now, and I'm thinking that soon we should be able to actually start estimating velocity. I mean, we could do it even now, I guess, but you know, I think maybe after this week I'll do like a little velocity estimate. I think our velocity is roughly around like 5 to 6 points, so not really surprising or anything, but yeah, just being able to use that to extrapolate and see how many weeks I think the project will take overall over the long term, and being able to estimate a final release date, right, I think that'd be pretty cool. So I'm not going to do that just yet. So another thing I want to mention is this project board is a little bit weird, I guess, because I have like this backlog column. I have like to do current sprint. I have closed current sprint and finished, like overall, and I'm not sure if that really makes a lot of sense. So I could actually just create different boards per sprint, and I know other projects that do that. there are definitely some benefits to being able to, yeah, just do that. It basically means you don't have to keep track of, which items were finished in a certain sprint. You can just click on that sprint and then know exactly what was finished during that sprint. Here I don't have that, so I'm tempted to actually move to that sort of system. I kind of know which tasks I finished when already, because it's only been like 2 weeks. So it's not too late to go and try and migrate, but it is something that I am thinking of doing because I realize that maybe the system isn't the best. Like, maybe we don't need to have like a backlog column. Maybe our backlog could just be like issues that are tagged as backlog or something. Like, I don't know. I haven't really thought about this too much. But I mean, this has been working for me so far. But a little bit later on, it might be better to just have separate projects for each sprint. So that's another thing I'm contemplating. I'm not necessarily going to take action on that just yet. All right. So next on my list is something that Adam, if you don't know who he is, he's the guy I have on my streams when I do the Haskell streams. At least when I did the Haskell streams, I haven't done one recently, and I feel like I ought to at some point again. But yeah, I just haven't gotten around to re-downloading and like setting up Haskell and everything again on this user account. So anyway, Adam was asking me about an extension that I wrote for Firefox recently. So that's what I have open here. If you saw, I have this Firefox extension, remove distractions. So basically, recently I created a this kind of crappy Firefox extension. It's not really anything special. What it does is it removes the side banner in Stack Overflow and on YouTube, so it doesn't give you those recommendations. It basically allows you to just like go and view the answers to questions without getting distracted by other hot network questions or other videos that pop up in the sidebar. So I find that very helpful for working, and yeah, it's not really that hard to create a Firefox extension. He wanted me to show off like how that's done, so that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to show you how to make a Firefox extension, or as I've titled it, Baby's First Firefox Extension. It's really, really easy. So all you have to do is create a directory like the one that I have here, remove distractions, and you can just do like make dir remove distractions, right? And all you have to do is create a manifest.json file, and it should look something like this. So you're gonna have like manifest version 2, name remove distractions, or whatever the name of your plugin should be. You'll give it a version. I just left it as the default 1.0, or the default from what I copied from their documentation. So they have documentation on how to create one of these extensions. It's super easy. And there's a description. Matches, or these are the websites that it will be active on. So it'll be only active on YouTube, and of course these are just like regular expressions, right? So you can just put stars in here to say that to match like any characters here. I've also got Stack Overflow in here. I could have tried to like capture all the other it's like Stack Exchange sites, but I decided Stack Overflow is the one that I use the most, and that's the one that I care most to avoid getting distracted on. And you add a JS script, so remove distractions.js. So let me go and edit that now. This is like so basic and simple. It's just a JavaScript file, plain old JavaScript. I just check, window.location.href. This is basically checking the URL. If I'm on the Stack Overflow website, then, or basically if this is not like a string comparison. This is just checking if Stack Overflow is found somewhere in the URL. Then we get the sidebar element, and we set the style to hidden. So it's not even like it doesn't download that stuff, right? Like the sidebar is still getting downloaded. It's just it's hidden away with CSS. That's basically all there is. We just style it to be invisible or hidden. This console.log was just kind of there for debugging. It's not really anything special. Same here. Yeah, something similar on YouTube. I have this get element by ID secondary. This is the sidebar on YouTube. So if you are if you're watching a particular video, this will hide that sidebar and all the recommended videos. And this video wall end screen thing just gets the videos that are recommended to you after you're finished watching a video. And of course we're getting it by class name, so we just get the first one. There's only one of these in the video wall end screens, so it's not really a big deal. And yeah, I just hide that as well. So really, really simple scripting. This could be improved. Like we're doing redundant checks here. Like if you fall into one case, you definitely don't need to check the other URL here. But I don't really care. It's so basic. The performance hit is non-existent, or like not non-existent, but it's so negligible you just never would notice it. So yeah, that's it. That's literally all you have to do to write a basic Firefox extension. It's so simple. Now, actually using the extension is a little bit more tricky, and that's something that I haven't done yet. So let me look up, oh gosh, what was it called? WebExt install. Yeah, so you want to install WebExt. You can npm i-g this to install it globally. Let me just do that right now. WebExt. And what this does is it lets you package your your extension so that you can actually install it in your browser. So that's pretty much it. I haven't actually tried it out on this user account on this machine. So I do have this extension sitting in like a private repo on my personal Bitbucket. I didn't intend to ever like share this code or anything because I was just like, well, I'm mostly just using this for like personal purposes. Not everyone is going to agree with me on what is, distracting and what isn't, and not everyone goes to the same sites that I do. So this is like entirely for myself. But Adam just wanted to see like, hey, how do you make one of these silly little extensions? And well, here you go. It's very, very easy, super basic stuff. Hopefully this thing will download and install relatively quickly. Don't think it should take too long. I want to actually show off how this works, because it's maybe not the most intuitive thing. Or maybe this is going to take a while. Okay, well, I guess while that is going, I can talk about, well, actually, no, I don't really want to, because if I do that, then I'm just gonna, I don't want to, like, fragment this segment of the video, because if I do that, then, if I want to show this particular portion of the stream to Adam, then, yeah, it's, I'm not gonna have, like, a good single timestamp to give him. That would kind of suck. I guess I'm just gonna leave it like this. We're just gonna have to wait. We're gonna have to be patient. To be fair, I wasn't really planning on showing this off today because these streams are kind of reserved mostly for talking about the randomizer, but yeah. I was asked to do this on stream and I was like, hey, I'm streaming today, so I might as well. Like, why not? Oh, here we go. Cool. So, if we want to build this thing, we go webx build, and that will... Oh. Right. 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 I forget. Windows. Windows! Dang it, Windows! Why do you do this to me? I'm clicking all the wrong things. Great. Fantastic. So, Windows is dumb and stupid. Man, someone's gonna ask me at some point, why do you use Windows? And my answer for that will be, oh, I wish I wish I wasn't using Windows. I ask myself that the same question like every day. So I have to actually manually set the path for this. It's probably going to be under WebEx, I would imagine. You know what? Rather than taking chances, let's go and actually go there. Okay, cool. It is there. So now, I've updated my path, which means I have to open Bash again. Firefox Extensions, remove instructions. Okay, now we should have WebEx. We don't have WebEx? What am I doing? Oh, this is awful. Okay, what is in here? Do I need to go into the bin folder? I think I need to go into the bin folder. Or maybe dist. Maybe dist. It could be one of these two. Maybe node modules? Oh god, no, I don't think so. Fun. Fun. Okay, let's try and fix this stupid thing. Okay, bin. And hope it works. I have to close this again because that's not going... Well, what I could do is I could just actually try and export the variable instead of doing this song and dance every time. What was it? Okay, actually I should just test WebEx right away before I start doing stuff. Okay, there we go. WebEx build. Alright, and it's built. I think there's also like an override option if you try to rebuild again. Let me do it again just to show you. Yeah, you can also have this -- overwrite dest flag at the end, so you could do like webx build -- overwrite dest to overwrite the existing build. But I'm not going to do that because I haven't made any changes. But if you do make changes to your code, then you want to add that. Excuse me. We got some hiccups today, so hopefully they don't come back and bite me right now. But yeah, it basically creates the extension in this zip file. So we're just gonna take a look at that. If we can find that. Where is that? Where would that be? Firefox extensions. Here we go. So we should have a zip in here, and that's what we're gonna select in our browser. So if I want to actually do this right now, I'm going to add-ons, I'm going to extensions, and we'll just tack on. You can install add-on from file, but this actually won't work. So the reason why this doesn't work is because we haven't actually submitted this extension to Firefox or Mozilla, I mean, and they haven't signed it, right? They kind of sign off on every extension that's usually that you usually download. So you can't just install an add-on unless it's actually been signed or whatever, or if you're using a particular version of the browser that allows you to use unsigned add-ons, like the developer version or the nightly version of Firefox. so this is not the nightly or developer version of Firefox, so I have to use debug add-ons. And this lets me kind of load a add-on temporarily until I close the session. So what I can do is come in here and just kind of do this song and dance again. And we'll upload the zip like so. And there we go. Now we have the we have this add-on loaded, and you'll see it's enabled here. We could also try and click on this, and we could enable it in private windows as well if we wanted to. I'm not going to do that. You can do that with any extension, by the way. But now, if I go on like Stack Overflow, you'll see that, hey, look, this entire sidebar just disappeared. It's gone now. And if I turn it off and we go back, and we give this a refresh, now it's back. So there you go. That's how you make an add-on or extension for Firefox. It's really, really simple. It's literally just two files. It's a manifest.json and a plain old JavaScript file. This is like one of those extremely rare times where I'm actually going to use JavaScript on stream, because I rarely ever touch JavaScript ever, because raw JavaScript is totally not my thing. If you like JavaScript and you think it's cool, like, that's great. That's, you know, that's you. I personally do not like JavaScript because I prefer statically typed stuff. I prefer, you know, being able to use the compiler to my advantage and help myself not make mistakes. So, also JavaScript has a bunch of strange idiosyncrasies that just kind of leave me scratching my head a lot of the time when I'm trying to debug issues with it. I mean, there's a reason why there's so many compile to JS languages. But, you know, if you like JavaScript, you know, no offense to you or anything. I think, you know, it's cool to like whatever you like, and, you know, you should be proud of it, I guess. There's nothing wrong with liking JavaScript. So yeah, that's that. Anything else I want to talk about today? Aside from getting into the actual randomizer stuff? Don't think so. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, last time I talked a little bit about React and Thermite. Like, Thermite is like high-level bindings for React and PureScript. I talked a bit about researching PureScript, and I did install, I think, Spago, the package manager for PureScript projects. General first impressions of Spago are that it's pretty damn cool. I like it. It reminds me of Cargo a lot. Not quite like Cargo. It's slightly less convenient in some cases, but it's like negligible. It does what I need it to do. That's great. So I ended up switching from Thermite to Halogen. So Halogen is another, I guess, UI framework or something in the PureScript world, aside from Thermite. Thermite's a bit older, and it's obviously based on React, like I said before. Halogen is its own thing, and the reason why I made this decision is because Halogen just seems to be a lot more popular. I don't know why, but it just is. In the PureScript world, it just seems a lot more popular and therefore a lot better supported. There's more blog posts and stuff about it. Like, it was easier to find learning material and ways to unstick myself poking around with Halogen. So I'm using Halogen purely because it seems like it's better supported. I think one of the reasons why it's better supported is because it is written like purely in PureScript. There's no like JavaScript involvement. There's no React, right? It's not there's no like third-party stuff there. It's all pure PureScript. Haha. And you know, people who use languages tend to like to dog food their stuff a lot. Like people, especially new programming language communities. Like, yeah, there's a reason why compilers are all bootstrapped these days. Like, Rust is written in Rust, Idris is written in Idris, Kind is written in Kind. The reason for that is because a lot of people just won't use a language unless it's written in itself. A lot of people think, you know, a language isn't really worth anything unless it is powerful enough to be written in itself. Obviously, you know, they have to bootstrap the compiler and everything, so that's quite a bit of work to make that happen. But yeah, a lot of people like to dog food their own language, see where the limitations are, see if you can actually build, you know, real world projects with that language from scratch. And so, I mean, that's kind of the main reason why a lot of people, you know, there are package managers for Idris written in Rust and other languages, but most people are like, well, I don't really want to use a package manager that's written in Rust because, you know, what does that say about Idris? If the Idris community is using a Rust package manager, right? Like, it should be written in Idris to show that, you know, Idris can do that. It can be used to write package managers. I should be able to do everything with Idris. There shouldn't be a need to resort to using other languages, especially if you're using a general purpose programming language, right? It just doesn't make it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But you know, that seems to be the main reason why people here like to use Halogen. Halogen is written purely in PureScript, and well, it is the PureScript community, so dog fooding. So anyway, Halogen tangent aside, I did actually manage to get my Rocket application, or my Rocket prototype, working with this PureScript project using Halogen. I called it Halogen Proto. As you can see, it's running right here. Nothing fancy, but it's cool that I can do this. This is kind of like your basic React app, right? A lot of these applications start with like a counter that you can increment and decrement as sort of like a hello world of, I guess, front-end development or something. I don't know. I've seen this in React. I've seen this in Elm. I've seen this here. It is kind of the lorem ipsum of yeah, UI frameworks. So let's dive into the code now. I don't know if we're actually going to be able to get to any actual programming today. That kind of sucks. I was kind of hoping to do some Rust today, because that's the other task I have on my plate. I spent so much time talking about extensions and other stuff that I don't know if I actually will have time for that now. So let's take a look at the project structure. This is the root of the Rocket Proto, the same as always. We can take a look at source main here real quick, and it looks basically the same. We're not even using this manual module here. This is completely irrelevant. The only thing that really matters is this file server down here that's serving from static. So I actually didn't have to change anything at all. That's completely okay. Let's go into the static folder now, and you'll see we have our index.html here. So open that up. And okay, the title being PureScript is amazing is because like some example had that as the title, so I just kind of copied that. This is a prototype, right? Although PureScript is pretty darn cool. I will talk a little bit about PureScript and why I'm using it and why I like it in a moment, but for now let's just talk about the HTML. So in the body we have this div ID content here. I don't know if this is actually necessary, but it was in the example. And we also have to add a script, of course. This just points to this Halogen Proto dist ps.js script. So this is actually a generated file. This is our build artifact when we build our Halogen app. So pretty similar to React, very standard stuff. So if we come into Halogen Proto here, so this is my Halogen project. This is the root. Dist is a folder that I created. The rest of the stuff here is all pretty much auto-generated. Spago init creates the packages .dhaul and spago.dhaul source and test directories. The only thing you actually care about is spago.dhaul. Was it doll? I don't know. Whatever. I don't know how to pronounce that. This stuff is all commented out up here, so you don't need to worry about that. What matters is all the stuff down here, and literally the only thing you have to do is add halogen into this list of dependencies. And you can also do like a spago install halogen, and it'll just automatically add it to this list, and that's it. That's all it does. It's really nothing special. I guess npm does similar things when you do like an npm install, like a local install of certain dependencies. It just edits like a file. I think it's like your package.json or whatever. So yeah, this is kind of like your package.json, but for PureScript. PureScript uses package sets, so in the default package set for PureScript or for Spago or whatever, I think it's Spago. It comes with halogen, so you can just add halogen as a dependency, and you don't have to worry about like, you know, adding halogen to the package set or looking for a different package set to use and adding that or whatever. Like, that's all taken care of for you. You don't need to you don't need to look for it. Thermite might also be supported. I have no idea. It might be in the package set, but the only thing I saw was halogen when I was looking around. So yeah, we're just gonna move on. Source, not too much happening here. We have main.pers. This is a PureScript file, obviously, as you could probably tell from the name. I have no syntax highlighting here. Maybe there could be maybe you could use like a Haskell plugin for that. That would probably work, I would imagine, at least for syntax highlighting. If I was using Nix, I could just, you know, toss that into my whatchamacallit, my home manager, home.nix, and that would probably work. I don't know, but then it'd probably only open for like .hs file extensions. Yeah, I don't know. I'm actually not sure about that. But yeah, here's a basic PureScript example using halogen, of course. We have a notion of components. This is very similar to React. There's a lot of stuff here that's quite similar to React. Of course, it isn't exactly React, right? Like HTML, like this, isn't a component of its own. Like, you have to use that to build a component. You have to actually call make component like this to get components. And of course, being PureScript, you don't have any side effects, right? If you want side effects, they have like special types you can use for that. None of the types here are annotated, but in the book for halogen, they do annotate the types. So this is just like a baby's first halogen example. Yeah, like increment and decrement actions, very similar stuff to what you would see in other tutorials in other languages. So I want to talk a little bit about PureScript and why I think PureScript is actually kind of cool. At first, I wasn't like entirely convinced about halogen and everything. I was just kind of like, fine, I'll use halogen because everyone else is using halogen. But I actually think it is kind of neat. And part of the reason for that is because it has an emphasis on type safety. And anytime some framework or language has an emphasis on type safety, then I'm kind of hooked. I like type safe APIs. They are so much more... They're so much less painful to use, at least in my experience. I like being able to use a compiler to my advantage and express what I want to express, or at least express it more than what I would be able to in, like, say, Java. So yeah, this is very type safe code. Not a lot of ways that things can go wrong. Like, for example, hh.text takes a single argument here, which is the text. It doesn't take another list of arguments as like the children of the text element, because text can't have any children, whereas button, like this button HTML element can, right? So here are like the attributes, and then the second list here would be the children of this HTML element. And you kind of get something that actually sort of resembles JSX even, right? I mean, it doesn't quite look like JSX because it doesn't have all the angle brackets and everything. It's not syntactically the same, but the structure is very similar, right? We have like a div here, right? And inside that div, we have, you know, button, another div, another button, right? Like, oh yeah, and this underscore means you can omit the first list, which is nice, right? You don't have to list any attributes for that div. That's pretty cool. So yeah, very type safe API. It's extensible too. Like if there's a certain element that's not there or a certain property that's missing from an HTML element, they actually tell you, they show you in the book how to actually add that yourself. So even if the base halogen libraries don't supply everything that you need, you can add it. So that's good. You don't end up getting stuck. I've played with some rather like underdeveloped frameworks before that didn't have that ability, and so there were problems. Like you could only use whatever the heck they supported, and because they were so new and undersupported, underdeveloped, you basically just couldn't do those things, and it sucked. Like it was just awful. So this is a really cool looking framework. Yeah, purely functional, so it definitely resembles Haskell. It even has like the double colons, and a lot of people say that the double colons were a mistake for annotating types. Like type theory doesn't do that. Type theory uses a single colon, and Idris uses a single colon. A lot of languages use a single colon. TypeScript does that. Rust does that. Scala does that. Idris does that. So it's kind of interesting that PureScript kind of chose to mimic Haskell more, but yeah, it seems like it works pretty well, and I'm generally pretty happy with what I've seen so far, and yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to playing around with this a little bit more. So yeah, I don't regret PureScript as a choice there. I mean, we get algebraic data types, like, oh, that's nice. I mean, you do get those in TypeScript too, but you know, I mean, I guess I could have chosen TypeScript instead. It's not super different from TypeScript in a lot of ways, but I don't know. I prefer the pure functions. Just personal preference, really. What is it about this folder? I think there's like a Spago build app or something. Let me see if I can. Yeah, Spago bundle app. -T. Yeah, -T specifies where to output your build. So normally, if you just do like a Spago build, it'll put your build artifacts in the output directory, and the thing about the build artifacts in the output directory is that they use require. And if you don't know, if you're new to the web development world like I was, or am, I guess. I'm slightly less new now. But if you're new, then require is not something that your browser can use. Client-side JavaScript can't use require and other features that the build artifacts here, like the compiled JS tries to use, and that is stuff that Node.js typically is able to use. So Node.js does come with the require, and there are some like libraries out there like require.js. There's Webpack, right? Or there's Browserify that can take your JavaScript files and turn them into like equivalent JS that works in a browser. So I actually tried Webpack and I tried Browserify. They didn't work with the compiled output of PureScript. And also, by the way, if you didn't know, PureScript compiles to JavaScript. It's yeah, it's another compiles to JS language, in case it wasn't obvious. But yeah, in the compiled JavaScript output. It uses requires. That doesn't work in the browser. So, thankfully, Spago comes with this bundle app superpower. It does what Browserify or Webpack would normally do for you if you were writing JavaScript, and that'll let you run your JavaScript or the compiled JavaScript in a browser. And so that's what I had to do. And this is the ps.js that you see in my index.html. That's the script that's being referenced. So this is a very important step. Don't leave home without it. And yeah, that's pretty much everything that I did, and kind of where the project is at right now. So we finished our prototype for the we finished our spike and prototype for the PureScript stuff. So that's done. That's why I moved it here. And today the plan was to implement the business logic for the randomizer. I guess I can talk over it very briefly. I don't have a lot of time left, but in essence, if we look at our diagram, essentially the API is going to be talking to a bunch of, it's going to be calling a bunch of these interface or trait methods, and because we have this sort of structure here, where it's almost like it almost resembles like a star schema or something, but because we have this structure, our application is going to be relatively flat, which is fairly typical of Rust, I believe. We usually tend to have very flat structures. We don't use inheritance. We don't use subclassing. At least not like, you know, yeah. We don't have inheritance on like the class level that you would typically expect in like an object-oriented language. So yeah, we tend to write our apps in a more data-oriented or functional way, and you end up with this sort of a flat structure of, you have your main logic kind of, you know, going top to bottom, and you call like different services or interfaces, and then when you get the result from that step, you move on to you pass the result of that into like the next step, and then you pass the result of that into the next step, that sort of thing. Like, control flow is very, very linear typically at like the high level. When you actually like are implementing your algorithms and stuff, of course, you know, that's when you start doing the more complicated things with your control flow, and that's where the optimizations will start to happen. It's usually more in like your implementations, but at like the high level, yeah, it's just everything kind of just flows step by step. Don't tend to go too deep. I mean, here we're going like 2 layers deep because randomizer algorithm is going to have to call graph methods, but I'm pretty sure that other modules are also going to have to use graph as well. So it's not really that deep. It's only like 2 links at most. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's kind of the plan. That's the high level plan for next time. That's what I'm going to be implementing. Kind of sad that I spent all this time yapping because I wanted to answer questions. I just wanted to, you know, give people the answers that they were looking for. So yeah, next time we'll implement the I guess top level structure of this stuff. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start all the way from the top level. So we're going to start from our entry point, which is the PureScript. We're going to be writing a bit of PureScript to get the HTML for our like upload button, just something basic like what our prototype had. We're not going to try and like solve it or anything yet because I haven't actually designed the web page. We just want to get the bare bones basic functionality in so we can actually start implementing the routes and calling the interface methods, writing tests, that sort of thing. Start to really dig into this. So yeah, on Thursday, I think that's what I'm going to be doing. So I'm not going to promise a stream on Thursday, but like most likely there will be a stream on Thursday if I'm going to be streaming again this week. So yeah, that's it. If you've stuck around all the way to this point of the stream, then yeah, thanks for watching.